Hey, everybody. Welcome in. I've got one of my buddies, Jim, and got to knowing him on Instagram, and he's got a really cool collection. He's really big into pre-war. He's very knowledgeable. Anytime I talk to him, he blows me away with all of his knowledge. So a lot of you guys are, big fans of Orlando's and his knowledge of the pre-war, the turn of the century cards. Jim's a lot like that in a different genre. He probably knows about the stuff Orlando knows about too, but he's been collecting a long time. So this is going to be a fun one. We're going to look at some really cool cards. He's going to throw some knowledge on you. So you're also going to get educated as we go along, but it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to bring him up now. Hey, Jim.
Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah. So been looking forward to this one. And so, you're a first timer. You're one of the guys that I like to bring on this collector spotlight. You don't have a YouTube channel. You show some cards on your Instagram and stuff like that. You're active over there. But other than that, your collection kind of just stays with you. So this is a chance to spotlight that. And you've built a great collection, and I know you're proud of it. And I can tell by your knowledge, a lot of people in the hobby too. So, it's good to have guys like you on here to just spread the wealth, man, show off your stuff. So,
well, it's fun to talk about it. Thanks for saying all those nice things. I heard in your intro, you made a comment about Orlando. He knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. And there are a lot of other people in the hobby that do too, but it's fun to learn about it. It's fun to collect. I have been doing it a long time.
Well, just real quick, how'd you get into collecting? Like, how old were you?
My dad collected cards and other things, coins, stamps, magazines, things like that. He was a collector before I was born. So when I was a little kid, he traveled a lot, and he would, when he was back from trips he took for work, he would always bring me cards. So starting at age 5, I would get packs of baseball and football cards. You were talking about 72, 73.
Okay.
And so that's how I started. And he really cultivated that in me. So by the time I was 10 or 11, I was already pretty heavy into it.
Yeah. And I'm sure because of his influence, you knew not to, drop them and bend them. You were probably taking really good care of them.
Not at first. Not at first. Really? I still have my, he completed, I say I completed, I was 6 years old. He completed my 73 football set just by giving me so many packs. Those cards are all PSA 1s, Tony, if they were to be graded. I mean, they're beaters. He let me play with them. As I got older, he started to teach me about it. And of course, he didn't let me damage any older cards. But
yeah,
my cards from the early 70s look like everybody else's cards from when they were kids. They're creased and dented and everything you would expect.
So you still have them then?
Oh, you still got, there are, of course, things I've parted with over the years, but I've still got virtually all of the cards I collected as a little kid because nobody else would want them.
Yeah, but that's cool though, man. They mean something to you, and your dad touched those, so that's awesome. That's a big part of collecting.
I've got a lot of things. I've got a vast number of cards that he collected, that right. He and I collected together, or he collected, and they all mean the world to me. So those are I've got some of those I can show that just stuff he picked up over the years or that we did together.
Okay. Well, I always ask guys this, but did you have a dormant period? Did you go to college and drop it for 10 years, or
I never
keep going?
I never completely stopped. I was collecting real heavy until I was in my mid-20s. Mid-20s, in school, getting married, things like that. Definitely dropped off in terms of the amount of time I devoted to it, but I never completely stopped. I'd occasionally go to shows. My dad was still living, so we'd go to shows together. And I still bought packs. I've always bought packs. I'm just, that's just something I've always done. I've opened some cards today, as a matter of fact. But huge lull in terms of big time buying and selling for maybe 15 years. And then when I was around 40 or so, kind of got back. I met a guy in my town who was a really serious collector, and his stuff was just so cool to look at. It was like a museum visiting his house.
Yeah.
And you know, some collectors like this. I mean, he's just got box after box of stuff you can't believe exists.
Yeah.
And just being around him got me back in. He sucked me back in, as they say. And so it you know, it's been a great thing. He and I are still friends, talk all the time.
Did he have like pre-war or what was it?
Yeah, he's a big he has everything.
Oh,
But
okay.
he's a big tobacco card guy.
Okay.
T206 guy. So
Right.
he's got all kinds of. When I first visited him, he said, "Hey, I heard you're into cards. Come on up." He knew I knew something about cards. He said, "Let me show you some cards." Pulled out a box about this long that was all scarce T206 back tie Cobb.
Oh, wow.
And so then he said, "Well, here's my Walter Johnson box." And he pulled that out. And so that got me hooked, just seeing the awesome stuff he had.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've actually got a card here, if I can dig it out in an easy fashion. It's related to some of the stuff that you have seen of mine that you're going to show, that I found in a stack of cards in his office, just random cards, going through them, and I found an extremely scarce pre-war card that he sold me, and ended up getting it great. I'll show it to you when we get to it, but just funny how the hobby is.
Yeah, it is. So what we're going to see is the main lane you collect in that I kind of know you for is pre-war. You also have some golden age stuff too. And, but you have some really unbelievable pre-war stuff. So you about to show us that card?
I'm not as organized as you are, Tony. I might take a minute to put my hand on it, but I'll definitely show it as we go through this.
Okay.
Here it is right here. But just as evidence that it's not just pre-war, this is one of my favorite cards right now. I just pulled this out of a 2020 Heritage pack.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's Aaron Judge, as you can see. Yeah. I just love this card. I might start buying these. But yeah, I collect everything. But here's the card I was talking about. This is a Collins McCarthy blank back Tris Speaker.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you can get it.
Yeah, I can get it. I can see it. But put it up closer. Put it up a little closer.
It looks like it was hand cut.
Yeah.
But I found this raw in my friend's, you know, he's got a card room that's the size of an apartment. And he just has cards everywhere. And I was going through some cards with him one day, and I said, "Well, do you know what this is?" And of course he did. He said, "Of course I know what it is." And then I said, "Is this real?" And we looked at it, and it's got the appropriate gloss and everything. Bottom line is, he let me have it, and I sent it in, and you know, this is a card that maybe there are 26 or so of all backs. So I mean, to find one in the raw like that is really cool.
Just hanging out on his desk.
Mixed in with stuff like 1976 Lou Piniella, you know, I mean, just totally random stack of cards.
So he wasn't organized either.
Not at all. Not in that part of the office.
Yeah. Are you ready to jump into your first slide?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, let's do it. So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to be seeing tonight. And you're going to love it. So kind of take us through this slide right here.
Well, so probably my favorite set to collect now are these D304 cards. A lot of times you'll see them referred to as General Baking. That's the baking company that sort of consolidated a bunch of bakeries in from 1908 to 1910. Bought a bunch of bakeries up in the New York, New Jersey area. This one, Martin's Bakery, was one of the ones that General Baking bought. And there are 5 backs on these cards. You're sure your viewers know a lot of this, but this is one of the 2 extremely rare backs. The common one everybody sees is Brunner's or Brunner's, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
There are a lot more of those than any of the other backs. The other backs are Fleischmann, or sometimes called Buttercrust, and Martin's and Weber. And then there's also just the General Baking back. And so Weber's the rarest, at least by population report. Well, it's hard to tell because there are guys that collect this stuff, Tony, that have books full of raw cards. So you
Yeah.
can't always go by the population reports. But as far as we can tell, Weber and Martins are significantly rarer than the other three.
So that 8.5, that's got to be the highest graded one of that card.
It is. There are two of those. The auction house story from way back was that two of them were, along with a few other cards, were found in a book and preserved really nicely. But that is the highest graded, not just Home Run Baker, but the highest graded Martin's back card.
Oh wow! Now that Cobb, why is that Cobb a 2?
Well, you can't see it very easily on this slide, but if you look right below his hands, you can see a little, what looks to be white flaking. That is evidence of a little crease right there.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why it's a 2. It's a beautiful card, though. There were only 3 graded Martin's back Cobbs.
Oh, dang.
So that's a tough card. I got that from a friend who knew I wanted it, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm going to part with this," and we worked out a deal.
Man,
cards like that, you don't pass them up when you get a chance to get them.
Exactly. And you see those on the big, not that back, but I see those on Heritage or REA or Love the Game, and they're usually beat the crap.
Yep.
I've never seen one that looks that nice.
They're tough to get. There are some Brunner's backs that are real high grade. They exist
in a Cobb.
But most of the other backs don't. When you're talking about some of the beaters, here's another one. This is a Brunner's back.
Yeah.
Of course, it is a well-deserved one.
Yeah.
Really, really beat up, but in hand. You can't tell it holding it like this, but in hand, the color of this thing is fantastic, and you can see his image just fine. And so, I love that card. There's general baking. Most of the grades on those tend to be low as well. I don't think we know this, but there's a lot of back damage on general baking back cards, and I suspect that, kind of like some of the tip-top bread cards, that company stuck those cards to the loaf of bread. There's some bread cards that were used to like either stamp the seal shut or just put on top of it sort of decoratively so the kid could peel it off. And I think if you look at, I've looked at a lot of these cards over the years, and the general baking backs tend to have back damage much more frequently than Martin's, for example.
So you're saying you think they took an adhesive and stuck it to the back?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Now, I don't know that for sure, and there's probably guys out there that can tell me, that know more about it than I do. But I've just observed that the general baking cards a lot of times have back damage.
Awesome. Well, you've already taught me about scarcity of backs and all that. You ready to go to the next one?
Are you sure? Absolutely.
All right.
Before we do that, Tony, let me just show a couple more of these.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
That's okay.
Yeah, man.
Just because we don't have enough slides, but I just want people to see some of these. So, for example, one of my favorite cards in the hobby is this Frank Chance.
Oh, yeah.
Just a beautiful card. Great colors, great pose. That one is a Fleischmann back. A lot of people call them buttercrust backs. And this one is the regular Brunner's.
Okay.
And
the color on that.
Just fantastic. I love that card. And then maybe even more, my favorite is I love the Chief Bender.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Great color on that, and then I can't ever stop loving the Cy Young.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Just a fantastic card. Cy Young is one of the players. They only made him with Brunner's and Fleischmann backs, none of the other 3, because they've been able to tell, and none of this is stuff I figured out on my own, but it's all stuff I've read, of course, from guys that have been doing this for years. But they can tell by the teams and some of the other details that these cards were made from 1911 to 1914 approximately. And guys like Cy Young, who retired before 1912, didn't have cards in the later series. So Brunner's and Fleischmann came out first, and then the other 3 backs came out later.
So how many cards are in a set?
There are 25 total players.
Okay, and they're all the same throughout all the
That's
back.
correct. There are some variations. So, for example, Johnny Evers and a couple other guys, there are 5 players, I think, or 6, that have what are called no team name cards. So you can see, like I'll hold another one up. This is Rube Marquardt. This one, he actually signed this card.
Oh, wow.
But you can see at the bottom, it's got the team name.
Yeah.
And some of the players, including Evers, have cards made where they blocked out the team name because they had been traded during this 3-year period. So
Right.
Evers is with the Cubs and then later went to the Braves. And so starting in the 1912 or 13 series, they blocked out his team name.
Oh, wow.
So there are 25 cards, but of course a lot of backs and some variation on the fonts.
Have you built any of the sets?
Well, I don't have all 25 players because I foolishly parted with my Christy Mathewson a few years ago.
Oh, no.
I haven't got. It's a long story, but when I parted with it, the prices were very low.
Yeah.
In between the time I did that and the time I was ready to do another one, a couple of guys sold collections at auction that really seem to have elevated the prices. So
Right.
I haven't had an opportunity to reacquire that. But what I'm trying to do is get as many Hall of Fame backs as I can.
Okay.
So I'm missing 2 players, but one of them's easy to get anytime you want to. The Matheson's the one I need. But
Right.
what I really focus on is trying to get all the backs of all the Hall of Famers I can. You never complete it because there are some guys like, for example, Nap Lajoie just has 1 Martin's back card.
Oh, wow.
So someone else has that. So unless he decides it's time to part with it, you can't. There's a limit to how much you can complete this thing. But
Right.
it's fun to try.
Yeah, it is.
This is the only autographed D304 card that we know of,
Oh, dang.
or at least that's been graded. There may be guys out there that have one, but
Yeah. He
these are
seemed to
cards
have signed a lot. So
that he signed a lot, but these cards weren't, produced in high quantity. So odds are there aren't a lot of them signed, period, just
Right.
because there aren't that many of them that exist.
Right. All right. You ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's throw it up here.
Okay. Man, I love looking at that.
You know what? Is that the same one I had the book beside?
It is.
Let me pull that one up.
There you go. So
right.
yeah, that's Pop Lloyd, the great Hall of Fame Negro League star. He's too early in Negro League history to have benefited a lot from this statistical recognition because he played in a time, the late, really 1907 or so to the late 20s. For a lot of that period of time, those stats aren't officially recognized even still. And we don't really have great records of all those stats. But he's generally regarded as one of the greatest players of all time. Very, very good players of his day, the Babe Ruths and people like that, thought he was, as good as Honus Wagner and one of the greatest players they had ever seen. That book, for people that are interested in the Negro League stuff, is a great resource for this book. Essentially writes about his entire career and chronicles what was going on in the Negro Leagues and the Cuban leagues for most of that time. And it's really more of it's almost like a diary of, who were the movers and shakers in the leagues and who owned the teams and who were the star players and how did they do against each other in various series than it is a narrative book. But for people that are interested in this stuff, hundreds of players are mentioned that a lot of people probably have never heard of. It's a great resource. I highly recommend it.
So tell me about this. What's this set? Where's it from?
So this is a Cuban set.
Okay.
Thank God for Cuban baseball.
I know.
The Cubans had Negro Leaguers playing in their main leagues and made cards of them in the late 1908, 9, 10, 11, and then throughout the 20s, and then again a few cards in the early 30s, and then a lot in the 40s and 50s. I know you have the absolutely phenomenal Josh Gibson card
Yeah.
That's not a Cuban card, but it's the same idea. It's
Right.
uh,
And I've got the signed Mini Minoso, the
here is in
Carmelo
this book that
Deportivo.
you're showing there. Here's a great photo of
Let me
your
pull
man, Josh Gibson.
let me
I
pull you up real quick.
was gonna say, I don't know if you can see that.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
wouldn't you like to have that
Great.
type one photo in your collection?
Yeah, no doubt, man.
But yeah, if it hadn't been for these Cuban leagues and these Cuban cards, we wouldn't have cards of a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
And so, Mendez and Lundy and Pop Floyd and Oscar Charleston, all those guys have these cards in this Aguilitas set, and in other Beacon and Gutierrez, other Cuban sets. As a matter of fact, Love of the Game's getting ready to have a selection of these cards that's just out of this world.
Yeah, they are.
Including a great Pop Floyd.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, but yeah, to me, this is one of the coolest things about the hobby is just the preservation of history, and particularly in this case, because without these cards, there's a lot of this stuff we wouldn't have a record of. Like
how are these sets distributed? Were they in cigarettes?
Well, some of them are cigarettes and cigars, and some were in candy.
Okay.
And it just depends on which set you're talking about.
Right.
It's kind of like here, same idea. Marketing to adults with pictures of them in cigarette packs, marketing to kids and adults too in candy. So you have both. The Cubans they took a lot of baseball real early from us. In the mid 1800s, they were playing baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
So presumably they styled a lot of things when they saw American tobacco manufacturers selling cards with cigarette packs. They did the same.
Awesome. So is this a blank back? So we got a cigarette company on the back.
This one has a back. Let's see if I can show you. You had me pull out a lot of stuff, Tony. I'm not sure I can.
Oh man, if it's buried, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, but it does. These cards show the Aguilitas brand name on the back.
Okay. All right, man. You ready to go to the next one?
Sure.
We're just hitting all kinds of avenues here in lanes.
If people are interested in the Negro League stuff, though, check out Love of the Game coming up in just a few days. Even if you can't buy them, there are cards in that auction I'm not going to be able to afford, but if I'll go by his booth at the National and just look at them.
And also, if you're interested in Negro Leagues, that book is a great resource. That Josh Gibson book that I referenced in my Josh Gibson video is also the same, and it tells you about the movers and the shakers and the people that were, the power brokers inside the league, and you get to understand a little bit why they didn't play many games in the season, and so in a lot about the players. So yeah, check that out. It's really interesting if you want to learn about that history.
Fantastic.
There is a collector called Joe Wood Collector. Do you know Doug?
I've seen his videos.
Yeah, and then TJ is online. They would love this right here, man. So tell us a little bit about it.
Pull me back up. I did find.
Oh, okay.
I did find a little box of some of these Negro Leagues cards. This is Clint Thomas, same set, Aguilitas set.
All right.
And you can see the back here, Tony.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then just talking about the guys in the league. This is Juanelo Mirabal. And a lot of people don't, just because of his name, they may not assume that he's an American Negro Leaguer, but he was. He's from Florida.
Oh, wow.
And he later became one of the most important guys in the Negro Leagues. He was vice president of the New York Cubans and the Giants Club in the 40s, late 30s and 40s. And then I think at one point became vice president of the whole league.
Oh, dang.
Anyway, that's just a
see, I I told everybody he's going to throw some knowledge at you, so just hang on.
That so one of the other sets that I love to collect that we touched on earlier when we showed the Tris speaker is all the 1917 Felix Mendelson cards.
Yeah.
With Boston Store, Collins McCarthy, blank backs, standard biscuit backs, wild baking backs, Merchant's Bakery. I love those sets as well. That's my other sort of collecting focus. Well, this is a Felix Mendelson photograph. You can't really see it in the scan, but in the lower right, there is an embossed Felix Mendelson, like he's got a little embossed logo.
Yeah.
With his name that and so this is a Joe Wood photograph that he took. I don't believe there is so there's the Felix Mendelson published the 1916 cards.
Yeah, they had the big ones, and then they also had the M1 4
the
and 5.
1917 cards for a long time. People weren't sure whether he published those as well or printed them. Right. But some really good guys on Net54 did a lot of research, and they've found ads that show that he did those cards as well. And then there's also a Felix Mendelson, what's called a Mendelson set,
exactly,
the larger cards.
Yeah,
there is not a Joe Wood in that set, I don't believe. I like to think if Joe Wood were in the set, I don't think they found a card. It could exist. They're so rare that we don't even know we found them all. But I like to think that would be the image just because he took the picture. But
so this would have been around 1917 here because he went to the Indians. He had a 2-year break because of his arm issues, and then reinvented himself as an outfielder. So yeah, that'd be about that time.
PSA has labeled it as 1917.
Oh yeah, I see that now.
But by their own standards, that doesn't mean it's definitely 1917.
Yeah.
There's some uncertainty about these type 1 photographs, of course.
Yeah, I found that sometimes you can look at their uniform on the uniform database and figure out they only wore that uniform 1 year.
Yep.
And it'll kind of help you pinpoint it. But yeah, that's a really cool issue right there as far as a photo. So the next slide.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think Mendelson's somebody that, there are certain card manufacturers that everybody touts the manufacturer and says, here are varieties of this maker. That wasn't the case with him. When all these cards were being collected and discovered, people focused on the backs, which is logical. This is the company that used this for advertising. But he's an important guy in the hobby, and I feel like he probably doesn't have enough. There's not enough known about him. So to have something like this just really is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I mean, like the M101 4 and 5s, they get grouped into the name of sporting news backs, and really there was a sporting news back, but really that's the avenue he used to advertise. He put it in the sporting news, and so he was the guy. So yeah, you're right. They should be called the Felix Mendelson issues
But back when they did it, that was the one that was so common. They just referred to it as that. Collins McCarthy's kind of the same way. It was Collins, and it was probably the most common back. Yeah. So everybody just started calling them that.
So that's why they call the blank backs that, just like they do the sporting news.
I think that's exactly right. And it's too late to you could say it should be Mendelson, but it's the guys that grade the cards aren't going to change the slabs at this point.
Right. And he operated out of Chicago. So most of the pictures would have been taken in Chicago at that time. So yeah, great guy with the hobby. So this next slide kind of feeds right into that. Here's another Mendelson on the left.
That another one of my favorite cards is that Cobb pose. At first, I didn't like that pose. Probably for the first 10 or 15 years I was aware of that card, I didn't like it because I thought his pants looked funny.
Yeah.
And I was like, he looks like a clown. And so I collected other Cobb cards, and I just never would get one of those. And then one day I was just like, what are you, stupid? And I have really grown to appreciate that pose. I love the real photo cards.
I do too.
I also like, obviously the D304s aren't real photo. And I've got a lot of appreciation for the art in the candy cards and the T206s, but I've always really liked those real photo cards.
Yeah.
And I just think that Cobb image is fantastic.
I do too. I mean, they kind of had the bloomer look on their pants. Joe Jackson's did the same thing.
Yeah.
And it
That
makes them look unathletic, but man, them dudes were some athletes, man.
he
Especially
could
that
well,
guy.
and of course he could run. You know, everybody
Yeah.
knows he was the stolen base king for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That's a so there is a higher grade Boston store card than that one. There's an SGC7,
Okay.
but this one's pretty high grade for that issue.
Yeah.
And
And it's thinner.
this is another example of a card that I met someone that had it, and we went back and forth, and he knew I wanted it, and eventually was willing to make a deal with me. You know, a lot of times with these harder to find cards, you got to seek them out. You can't wait for them to come to auction because they just rarely do.
Yep. That's right. Yeah,
And
that's
then
the good thing about making connections and making friends in the hobby. You know, that Josh Gibson, I wouldn't have it in my collection if it weren't just from putting yourself out there and meeting people and talking and sharing your love for cards.
the only downside, Tony, is that of course sometimes people reach out to you to see if you will part with
Yeah.
your stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can't always say no, or else it's got to
Yeah.
go both ways.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
And then,
So
and then
the
of course you've got the Cy Young up there again. That's a different one than the one I showed, I think.
oh, that's what I was fixing to ask you if that's the same
Yeah, I
one.
think the one I showed was this Fleischman back,
Let me pull you up.
which is very similar. I mean, it's the same front, of course,
Yeah.
but different back. This one's got, everyone calls these butter crust.
Uh-huh.
Um, the Fleischman Bakery is who made it. So
Okay.
that's probably a more appropriate name since these are all named after the bakeries. And butter crust is a misleading name because the Brunner's backs also say butter crust. And so a lot of times you'll see these things mis-slabbed because the graders see butter crust on the Brunner's back and think it's a butter crust card.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I noticed that a while ago when you showed that one that it
but
had that in there.
but just a phenomenal. Now the butter crust card, the Fleischman card I showed, is a higher grade than that one, but the color on this one is better.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That yellow green on this card and the red on his socks is so bright. Another interesting thing about this card, there are two Red Sox in this, or two Boston players, not Red Sox, two Boston players in this set. And the S in Boston is backwards on both cards. And I don't
Oh,
know
wow.
why. And I haven't met anyone else who knows why. I have a theory that whoever made them, because they were mostly New York and New Jersey, didn't like the city of Boston. So they just as a dig,
They defaced it.
But we don't know that. We don't know why that is that way.
Yeah. Well, awesome. All right, I'm gonna pull up another pre-war slide right here. Another
So
back.
this is that speaker again, but this is a much tougher back.
Okay.
The Collins McCarthy and Boston Stores are the two more common. Boston
Right.
Stores not really, I wouldn't call it common, but
No.
none of them are super common. But the Collins McCarthy's, maybe there's 12 or 14 speakers.
Yeah.
And Standard Biscuit, there are 2.
Right.
And I'm just talking about graded again. I'm not talking about guys that have raw cards. I visited a collector recently who doesn't really like to grade his card. And he's got binders, Tony, full of cards like these that are not graded. And
Wow.
so you just have to try to make a mental note of what he's got so that you can add it to the population.
Yeah. So the story of Felix Mendelson again, he would put an ad in the Sporting News, and people have those ads. You can find those. And he would put an ad in there, and basically he would try to market them to companies like Standard Biscuit. And he would sell, 200 sets at a time or something?
Well, we don't really know. There's 1916 and 1917. They clearly made a lot more cards in 1916.
Yeah.
And there are a ton more backs. You know, the 1916s, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly how many backs are, but
Like
it's like
16
18
or
or
18.
19 backs.
Yeah.
And there are only 5 known backs of the 17. So they
Right.
clearly weren't as popular. That might have been because we were just on the cusp of going into war, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
Or it could have been just economic conditions, or it could have just been he was slowing down in that part of his business.
Right.
We don't really know, but the Boston store and Collins are way more plentiful than
Yeah.
the other 3. Wild baking and merchants and standard biscuit are extremely rare,
Yeah.
and in fact, you couldn't complete a set of. There are only like 37 merchants baking cards known,
Right.
out of the 200 in the set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, really tough back.
Yeah, and they're quality cards that you can't tell by this picture, but there is a little bit of a gloss on the front of the card.
Yep.
It's numbered at the bottom. And then, in my understanding, is the blank backs would have been where an individual went on Sporting News and ordered a set, and they weren't going to have a company name on the back because you bought them just like that. So,
Could be. It could be also that he just had excess that never sold, and so they either gave them away or used them for some other purpose.
Right.
We don't really know. Here is what the merchant's bakery back looks like, so you can. So it's a really cool. It advertises sunrise bread or butter bread. It's a really beautiful back.
Yeah.
And these are just really tough. This is Armando Marsan's.
You know what? I've got that one. Let me add that up here.
Your buddy Orlando would love this card.
Oh, you ain't kidding, man.
He's a Marsan's guy, I think, from what I don't know Orlando personally, but I have interacted with him online and seen his videos. He makes the best videos.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep, there it is. And so I've got a Collins Marsan's, I've got a Boston Store Marsan's, but that one is just ridiculously tough.
Yeah.
That's the again, there are only 37 of all players combined with that back. So really, really lucky to have it. And I actually spent a lot of my childhood in Virginia. So since this is from Norfolk, it's kind of, for me, a cool card.
Yeah, I've never even seen that back before. So that's how rare that one is. So he was a very interesting guy, being from Cuba. But he was white-skinned Cuban, so he was allowed to play in the major leagues. And he came from a very wealthy family, and so basically, he was a wealthy guy that was allowed to play baseball in the States.
He came over with another player who was actually more highly touted as a player, but he needed a translator and an interpreter, needed somebody to help him get acclimated. And Marsan's, I think, was sort of more worldly, and so he came with him, and I think he ended up actually being the better player. Orlando made a video about him talking about how he helped to fight for players' right to change teams.
The
old Federal League in 1915. And that's a great video if you're interested at all in that stuff. Really, really cool stuff.
Yep.
Really cool stuff.
All right, we're going.
Here's one more, Tony, for you.
All right, let me
just to see the other back. This is one of the wild baking. This is what that back looks like.
I've seen those.
This is a New Orleans card. This one is Joe Judge,
awesome.
A ridiculously underrated player, had a great career. My eBay name used to be by Joe Judge.
That kind of tells you how you feel about him, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's go with the next one right here. This is interesting too.
Okay.
Tell us a little about this one.
Well, that's an Al Dimmery card from 1934. That's, of course, Babe Ruth, which is it. These are tough. You can tell probably by the, it's a stand-up. It was meant to, you'd fold it in half and the kid could stand it up. It's kind of a novelty card. So they didn't make a ton of them. These are hard to come by. thing I love about these is, I mean, I love this one because it's Babe Ruth, and I think it's a great image of him, and it's just a cool card. But one of the things I really love about these is that Al Dimmery was a cartoonist, and he drew the body, and they used a photo image for the face on these cards.
Oh, wow.
All of these are basically cartoons drawn by him. This is Al Dimmery.
All right, let me bring you up. Hold on one second.
He was a
Let's see.
Major League Baseball player.
Oh,
A
wow.
pitcher in the, here's a 1916 card of him.
Yeah.
See it.
Sporting News.
He was a good baseball player, had a good career, but he also was an artist. And after his career, he drew this set and several other sets. You can, if you Google him, you'll see lots of sets that he did. Not as many major leaguers. He did a Pacific Coast League set that you've seen the cards of. He did a later major league set of retired guys. But these Dimmery cards from 34 are great. Here's another one. This one I actually got fairly recently. This is Sam Bird. And
Okay.
what I love a couple of things about this card. One is, so Babe Ruth's card is card number 4, and this is card number 5. These guys were teammates. Sam played with the Yankees at the time. And he later, he was the best golfer in baseball, Tony, and he later played in the Masters. And
Really?
finished in the top 5 in the Masters twice. He's the only person to play in a World Series game and the Masters.
No kidding.
There's a trivia question for you next time you're down at that Nashville bar scene. But yeah, it to me, I mean, I just love the fact that he was Babe's teammate. And there are not, I mean, I think the total pop on this card is 2 or 3.
No kidding.
Yeah, do great in population because people don't send in a lot of Sam Birds to get graded.
So do you find them without the, I would call it a tab, the stand?
So it's not a tab in the sense that people would tear it off and redeem it or something. You do occasionally see them, but most of them are intact.
Yeah.
You see them badly creased. Like my Ruth has a nice crease right through the middle where some kid used the card.
And I'm sure those were probably regional.
I don't really know.
There's not enough on probably to know.
Maybe some of your viewers know more about this set than I do. I don't know if this was I think there's so few of them around that you could assume that.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, really cool oddball kind of set.
Yeah. So speaking of Ruth, let's go